all of your HR ladies give you Professor Umbridge vibes.
And their name is always like Beth. The average overall healthcare cost for a retired married couple is $315,000. Risk of heart attack or stroke increases 40% in the first year for many retirees, and younger generations carry a retirement gap individually of over $1.5 million, meaning on average, millennials specifically in this instance are at least $1.5 million behind the ball. Once retired, though, the game isn't over. Retirement is not the finish line. It is merely the next phase, and you just lost the game.
God damn it.
What do we think that phase looks like for our prospective retirees? Without laughing, he puts in his script and continues to giggle through the entire thing.
I know I asked for that one. I'm aware of it.
The game persists even after retirement. Oh man, but it's finishing the first game first, man. There's not a lot promising on the horizon for us. We got Social Security in decline. In fact, Social Security is set to decline by 21% by 2033, and that's just like a fact of it. It's not even the reason people are worried about it. I'm actually quite unfamiliar with the reason people are worried about the Social Security thing.
Oh God, it's kind of messed up on multiple fronts, but the Social Security is often kind of the breadbasket of the federal government. Like if you need to just quickly move some money from somewhere into a project, you need money for it. Just out of that bucket, it's fine. Let alone the fact that like wages haven't increased. First of all, there's a cap on wealthy folks' wages. I forget what the cap is, but basically it's some pittance of an amount per year that you can max out in like putting to these things. They don't pay their fair share. Our stuff hasn't gone up, and there's a functional cap on it even when you do. It's kind of a broken, busted system that's archaic. Like, it's just this weird piece that we still do. I don't know what a good equivalent is. Like, what's a habit we do that we don't need in society anymore? It's like saying I'm
from the poor and give to the wealthy.
Well, God, yeah. It's like saying we're gonna diet or we're gonna dial a phone, like a dial ring, or you're gonna hang up. It's an archaic element that's almost cultural. We don't question it for some reason, even though a lot of us hate it.
Man, that's an interesting way to put it. The Social Security was never really meant for the average person actually either. So when it was introduced, the age of eligibility was 65 when the age of life expectancy at birth was 62. You were expected to die before you were able to actually collect on it. So I know some facts about Social Security. I just don't know the whole
God. That just sounds so much like the American system. It's just like, hey, if you get this cookie, you can have a nice life.
You get $1,200 more a month.
Yeah, aren't you lucky? Maybe you can live off of that. Now it's like, God damn, that wouldn't even hit rent in most cities.
Fuck no, it wouldn't, man. And I think the most you can actually earn from Social Security, you wait until you're 70 to pull from it, you can get $4,500 a month.
Oh, God.
So you get
I remember when I used to think that
$2,000 a year.
I remember when I used to think that was like, heck yeah, that's great money. And now it's like, God, with inflation, heck no, need more.
Dude, I remember back in like 2008, I've mentioned this before to you long time ago, but mentioned this to you before. Back in like 2008, 2009, there was a country song that had a line in it, $18 an hour and $1 million tan. But then the last line in the verse, the chorus, I believe, was paycheck, something about paycheck on Friday, broke by Monday. And I remember being 18 years old and being like, how do you make $18 an hour and you're broke by Monday? You pay your bills and you get a tank of gas and you get a case of beer and you're broke. I was like judging this guy, like, you need to fix your habits, son.
Same. Absolute same. And I remember thinking like, all right, I just have to get to $20 an hour. Then I made it. And I started feeling the
Right.
inflation because I had to be like, okay, well, it's got to be 45K a year. Okay, if I really want to survive, I need to be at 55K a year. And it just kept escalating. It's insane how fast it changed.
And the number that you need in your retirement savings
Oh God,
to retire grows every year. It grows exponentially every year. The
it's not pinned
last
to
number I remember
inflation.
hearing was something about if you want to sustain the lifestyle you have now in retirement, you have to have roughly 25 times your salary saved to live off of.
Ah,
So
dang.
yeah, I would need $3.5 million or something like that just to chill. And you know what though? That's not a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. The problem is none of us
It's
have it.
just, yeah, no. Well, a
And
few
twenty
very
dollars an
select
hour ain't gonna
few
get you
do.
there anymore.
Yeah, a select few definitely have a lot of it, like Musk.
And 401k too
Yeah,
it was never meant to be a primary source of retirement either.
it's like a
And that was one
supplemental.
exactly. It was supposed to essentially work sort of in
Yeah,
tandem with Social Security. And it was initially intended to serve more or less the upper middle class and beyond. It was never really intended to serve people like you and me.
yeah, and that tracks. That's been a lot of our nation's history. I mean, there's this weird thing. Like, I mean, the simple fact that if I explain it this way, I think you'll hate it. I'm
Lay it
going
on.
to take money from you with 401k and Social Security at a required amount per paycheck. And I'm going to handle it so you have enough to retire because I don't trust you to figure it out on your own. Especially when times are tight, all that money would be better off in our pockets. Now there should be a government retirement plan, but it needs to be pinned to inflation and just something that everyone can live on at a reasonable level. Like, and it can be brackets. I know we're all obsessed with competing with each other and someone having more and keeping up with the Joneses. So sure, there can be brackets,
Yeah, their rocks are
slightly
shinier than
more.
mine.
Yeah, exactly. They can have a slightly nicer fence or something. But like if we just did that and took care of everyone, what's the big deal with that? It's the twilight years. They're not gonna last that long. Just let
Well,
them
that's
let them
actually
chill
part of the
after
problem
50
is they're
years of
lasting
fucking work.
longer. I think if I may be mistaken here, but I
Yeah.
think part of the concern about Social Security running dry is the longer life expectancy. However, since COVID, life expectancy in the U.S. has dropped to I think roughly 2.5 years. So
Hmm.
people are actually not living as long anymore, and that may continue to shrink for a little bit.
Yay, the system works.
Oh boy, does it though! And I think we all kind of
Uh,
intuitively knew that Social Security and 401k was never really meant to sustain us in retirement, but no one ever actually teaches
yeah.
us how to do it. In fact, I have no idea how to, even after reading up on everything that I read up on for this week's episode, I have no idea how to actually like, what do I have to file for retirement? Who do I talk to for that? Obviously, I call up
Yeah.
Fidelity. Hey, I'm ready. But
Yeah.
it
No,
just
yeah.
doesn't feel enough.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
know,
not going to be. I mean, I think the only time that it seemed like such a thing was the era where there were so many professional jobs where you worked for a company and they would pay for your retirement. That was part of the deal of
pension.
hiring you on. Yeah, exactly. Most companies don't have that anymore. Like, I think this will shock a lot of people who haven't worked in tech world. Tech world is like there's like maybe less than 1% these really amazing companies that are straight up like we're going to treat you like family, you don't worry about stuff. Maternity leave, we don't even have maternity leave. Just take off as much time as you need, come back when the child is chilled out. Your job is going to be here. Real example, amazing dude. And then there's the rest of them that give you the bare minimum, underpay you. They'll always justify a reason to talk down to you and belittle you because you should always have something to improve upon.
Obviously.
And those have no retirement benefits, the worst shitty insurance. And every time they give you the same line every couple of years, we got access to this much better insurance. Don't worry, we're going to go ahead and implement it. Trust us, you guys are going to be thrilled. And then we're
Dude,
looking
and then
at it
then they
going,
have you go through this entire fucking rigmarole of going from like Aflac to whatever. I don't know why I chose Aflac, but
eh,
to have to roll over everything. And it's all because they had some, new insurance agent approach there. Like I used to sell insurance. I know how that game works. They just walk
oh
up
yeah,
there. It's like, hey, I'm your guy now.
yeah,
Watch my presentation.
yeah,
I was
I
like,
can do it cheaper.
that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
All we have
Jesus
to do
Christ.
all we have to do is I got it approved already. You're just going to pass more of the expenses down to the employee, and then the employers act like it's a big helpful thing. It's a horrible whole system. Like we tech, there are some good tech, but it's just like every other job. There's mostly shitty companies that take advantage of their workers, don't treat them well, and then are just flabbergasted when their best employees leave for greener pastures.
You know, I'm being reminded of clean break rooms, and I'm thinking
yeah,
the best retirement plans in my experience have come from clean break rooms, employers with clean break rooms. We should have just called this podcast Clean Break Rooms.
It just always comes back to clean break rooms somehow.
It kind of does.
The pillar. It's the cornerstone of American work culture.
God, it sort of is. Like, what is a place without a good break room? Like
Same goes for bathrooms.
Bathrooms too, yeah. But I don't know, man. The break room's got a soul too. That's a communal space. That's a shared bet.
And if it's not, that's a red flag.
That's exactly right. When I worked at DuPont, I don't know if explaining a company's benefits isn't like against the law, right? When I worked at DuPont,
so.
It doesn't matter. I'm just talking about what they meant.
You just bleep it out like you're cussing.
Right. Yeah. I'll just yeah. When I worked for IBM. In the end. But when I worked there, they automatically put 3% into a 401k for you, and they matched beyond that up to 6%. So
you get something back at least. It's not just them managing
9%.
Yeah.
If I put 6% in, I'm putting 15% in.
That's pretty nice because they continue to match. They used to have that at some of the companies, and then they would.
Man, and I could have retired there in 20 years for sure.
Yeah. No, one of the first companies I worked at did similar, and it was great. And then a new management firm took over, and they immediately capped it, and it immediately took away. Like, you're just like, okay, now it's not worth it to work here now because you basically cut my pay. You indirectly cut my pay and lied to my face about it.
Exactly. In fact, I've had the increase, like I've had 401k agents, we'll call them, basically try to sell me the idea when I was working in Rebar, try to sell us the idea when they were coming to their big presentations, like, oh, if you put 5% in, or your company's matching you 3%, that's technically a 3% raise. It's like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at it, actually. I don't hate that.
I think in a perfect world, yeah, because if we had enough money that we weren't feeling pinched all the time, we'd be like, actually, that's a really nice perk. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what?
Now it's like, fuck, just give it to me. Like, Jesus.
Man, you're feeling like I was pinched. Like, back to working at DuPont, that was the best job I'd ever had, period. And I will never have a better job than that until I'm self-sufficient here. Period. Fair. I just think that cannot be beat for where I am at in the production line and all that stuff. That cannot be beat. Yeah. I was as happy there as I possibly could have been while working for someone else.
Yeah, no, I've got a couple.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. Like, I saw a future for myself there, and in that future, I would work hard in the present. And because I was working hard in the present, other people around me saw something in me in the future. They were grooming me within my first 4 or 5 months. They were grooming me to take over the lead spot because our night shift plant manager was retiring, and they were just going to move all of us up. Because I had and I shit you not, it was like a large part of why I worked so hard is because I knew I was making good money. And I knew I could legitimately retire from this job.
Yeah. No, there's a place that I worked at, absolutely stunning property and just great hotel in the long run. Started out really rough, but when it got amazing was when management cycled out and we had good management come in. And good management like immediately saw me and was like, what do you mean you're the only one who knows how like our entire reservation system works? What do you mean you're the only one who's been running housekeeping for 6 months without being asked to? Like, where's the room supervisor? Where's this person? Where's that person? Being like, I have been doing it for a long time. They've been promising it to me and never giving it to me. And he was like, nope, next week we're swapping you up. You're going to take on a supervisor title. Like, we're going to train you because you didn't get the training, but like, you've already been doing it. And like, being acknowledged, they didn't even give me a pay bump right away. Being acknowledged and given the title and then getting a pay bump later on $19 an hour, baby. Like, I felt like I was on top of the world. I was so
Well, you were finally
thrilled.
making what you were doing, making that
Yeah.
sweet $18 an hour.
Yeah. And then I ended up actually getting up to like $23 an hour. I remember I
Fucking
was
hey,
the
man.
envy of my social crew because I was basically, and then they kept fucking up. They started doing the same thing. We're like, we're going to bring in a manager you can learn from. That person was horrible and really messed up the property. Oh, we're going to bring in another manager. Brought that person in. He was great, super good. He was so good that he bounced to another property that paid him more like 3 months later. And then by the time I got to it, I was like, I'm realizing you guys are never going to give me the chance. So I'm going to take the offer I got across the street.
Yikes.
Yep. Like,
But at the end of the day, you have to be loyal to you and not loyal to your work. Not
exactly.
loyal to your business, not loyal to
That's
your
the sad
boss.
part. But I still love that place. It was an amazing experience. But it was because the journey was going. It was only when they fucked up the journey. And honestly, the first move that the person made, the really cool manager, is that he fixed the fucking break room.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's
Yeah.
the break room, the fucking clean break rooms.
It is. It is.
I love that. I love that.
It's
so
like a
much.
sign of workplace discipline, I think. It's like, the mess hall is looking good. You're going to be taken care of.
Man, I remember I worked at a food oil manufacturing company.
Yeah.
And they had a really weird, I'm not even sure if it was, they called it a 401s. I have no idea what it is. No idea. I've never heard of it since.
That one.
They very well could have been fucking with me, and I just bought it hook, line, and sinker. But I remember they matched 7%, and they were union. In fact, it was the first union shop I ever worked at. That was the first time, by the way, that I made $17 an hour. I was making $17.50 there, and I was before that making $13 an hour. So getting like a $4.50 pay bump plus 7% match in my 401k, dude, I was pretty dedicated to that job for about 3 months, and then
That's so
I left abruptly.
Yeah, it happens. I don't see 401s refers to Section 401s of the U.S. Tax Code, which outlines non-discrimination requirements for retirement plans like 401ks. Oh,
Dude, it was the HR lady that told it to me, and she's like, "Yeah, we have a
never trust
401s
HR.
here for So that's what I mean. I don't even know if she knew like what company they used for their retirements there. So
I did all of you watch Harry Potter, right?
yeah,
Do all of your HR ladies give you Professor Umbridge vibes?
most of them.
Yeah. There's
Either
a
that
type.
or Ursula.
Oh yeah, no, there's been a couple of those, the sassy ones where
Yeah,
you're like, shit, I'm gonna die.
yeah, and their name is always like Beth or something. Jennifer.
Yeah, it's one syllable at most every dang time. The only time I had a really good one, it was a 3-syllable name.
Veronica.
Yeah.
The more syllables, the better, though. That's what I always say.
God, yeah, no, at this point, yeah. All right, that's another one. If your HR person has more than one syllable in their name, it's a good sign. And break rooms and bathrooms are really good signs. That's probably a company that's not going to lay you off and like make you question if you're ever going to fucking retire.
Damn, really just tying it back into the first episode there. Oh, hey, folks, this is a reminder. We recorded another episode shortly before this. It's on Layoff, so you can get that here.
Oh, I do have some fun, quick stats too.
So we're here for.
I just enjoy this because the generational shift is what we're seeing. Like when we were younger, I think we both saw times, and most people who are watching / listening to this would see times of a grocery cart being filled with $50 and my mom complained about it. I would kill for that now. Gas.
Yeah.
Remember my mom complaining it was $2 a gallon. I would kill for that now.
I remember that specifically actually because that happened the summer I turned 16.
Yeah.
And I was and so I was driving around. It was like 230 or something, like 206 or something like that. It was low twos, a gallon, and it was $20 to fill up a tank from a quarter tank. And I remember it being like a stark a contrast, I guess. Like it was something my parents actually would complain about. Now I didn't grow up with money, so I guess they would probably have a reason to complain, but $20. I mean, even the brokest people I have known have $20 somewhere.
That's how it felt for me too. I used to view the world as a series of $20 interactions, and like I was trying to save up enough to get ahead of that. Nowadays, it feels like that there's like the meme going around right now. If you can't go outside without spending $100, it feels like it's true. Like I have to get gas. Okay, I'm basically at 60 now. Like crap. I need dinner. Well, that's expensive now. Or shit, I'm just gonna get groceries. That's expensive now.
That's what the fuck you right there. That's what
Yeah,
fuck you. And in fact, these prices are harder to manage when you're retired because you're on a fixed income, man. Like you can negotiate more money, you can pull more money from your investments and stuff, but it's usually ill-advised. You know, the last thing you want to do is pull from the stocks that are making you money. You want to pull from the money that's making you money. And when inflation comes and you're salaried yourself at 6,000 a month or 3,000 a month or 1,000 a month, whatever your situation is, that shit is only going to shrink. You know, you feel the squeeze so much harder when you don't have an option to get a raise anymore, when you're not working and you can afford to, or, push for a raise anymore. That's why so many retirees have gone back to work.
Oh God, I'm seeing that where I live. It's kind of scary. And there are so many younger folk who really need the jobs. So like, I guess to add to this point, this gives a great pre-qualifier for just these quick stats on like different generations are likely to retire. Yeah, I envy them for being able to retire, but they're not in a great position either. My grandpa Mike is retired and he struggles every day. Like the VA being upgraded was the best thing that happened to him. So like just because people got to retire doesn't necessarily mean they retired into opulent wealth. That's again, the theme is that's not most of us. But run through real quick. So baby boomers, roughly 40% of them have no retirement savings right now. Generation X,
Boomer.
Yeah.
No, 40%.
Yep. 40%.
That is concerning. Not to cut you off, but all of my focus, unfortunately, has been on Gen X and younger because I was in fact, primarily millennial and younger. Unfortunately, Gen X has kind of forgot a lot in a lot of statistics I find. And even like in a lot of my research, I kind of forget about them, unfortunately. I'm going to do better about that. But that's insane. 40% of boomers don't have, and we're talking boomers, like legit 70, 80, 90-year-olds.
Yeah. So to further qualify it, though, a lot of their stuff is locked in at lower rates. I mean, they got houses for much cheaper. Property taxes in certain areas don't go up until you sell. So you got property taxes from
ratio
1960. Yeah, exactly. So they're in a healthier spot. They can live off of Social Security and 401k plans, just like we were talking about. But they're feeling the pinch too. So they don't have retirement savings. One medical issue, what are you going to do? That taps out most of that income that was a healthy-ish level. They're struggling. Generation X, 50% of Gen Xers are expected to face financial shortfalls in retirement. Most have been told to say that they're relying on Social Security and 401ks, which we already know that the previous generation that's going to have the most luck with that is struggling. That's not a good sign.
The case study right there.
Yeah. And then millennials.
Study.
Millennials, only 29% believe they will be able to retire by age 65. Most report feeling uncertain about Social Security's future role in their retirement plans. Same problems. And then Gen Z is more skeptical about Social Security than previous generations, with only 30% believing they'll have access to it when they retire.
So, quick recap. We got boomers with no money. We got Gen Xers who are going to rely on Social Security and 401k. We have millennials who doubt Social Security and don't think they'll be able to retire at a reasonable age. Gen Zers basically don't believe in Social Security at all and have no plan, no way out.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say this though. How much of that is like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because I grew up, in the country. I grew up hearing, oh, your generation will never be able to retire because of Social Security issues, because retirement age will keep going up, because of this, because of that. And I took that as an insult. I was like, you're telling me I'm not allowed to retire? I'm not capable of retiring, motherfucker. I'm going to retire by 50. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to do. I'm going to pull it off. I know I am, because this is what I do. I fucking pull it off.
Yeah.
And I think some of that hard nosedness actually is kind of missing from a lot of the younger generations. I'm including ours very much in that as well.
Include the boomers all the way down. Like,
It's,
I don't
you
think
know what though?
anyone.
Fuck, you know what? It just occurred to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a level of delirium that we're missing. Like millennials, Gen Zers, we kind of have a very realistic picture of the world because we've lived through a world-ending catastrophe fucking time and time again. If it wasn't 2012, it was the millennium. If it wasn't the millennium, it was 666. If it wasn't June 2006, it was the Mayan calendar, or fucking name it.
And then
We've been through,
it became real. If September
so it's all real.
11th, and
Yeah, that's right.
wars and plagues and
So maybe we're just not delirious enough to have that belief that we can retire, because it is a bit of a mythical realm for many. You just said it. I mean, 29% of us in our generation isn't going to retire by 65, or at least they don't believe they will.
Well, and the thing we see is how this story is playing out across the whole country. At the top level, the people who have the least costs, they're looking at us from their lens, from their society, their era, and going, "You make so much money. Why do you have problems? Houses are dirt cheap. Like, come on, if we could get this kind of stuff going, you can too." It creates that whole cascade that we're feeling societally.
From the top down.
Yeah. Gen Xers are
Trickle-down
like that
economics
interesting
has worked
hybrid.
for the last 45 years. I don't know why people think going to work in 46th.
Oh no, I think we're actually looking at what trickle-down economics actually is. It's the shit end trickling down, and it's just bad. It's not what the higher ups are saying it is, man.
It's, yeah, what is it? What's that saying? It's not a, it's a trait, not a flaw, or something like that.
Oh, it's a bug, not a feature. Or it's a
That's
feature,
it,
not a
yeah.
bug, rather. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
no,
right. That's the one.
Yeah.
You know,
we're
I do
seeing-
get a little perturbed when I see wealthy people working. Mostly because I want to retire. I
Yeah.
understand that retirement is going to mean some kind of work, because the mind needs that. The human psyche.
Yeah.
needs that. Without work, without an objective each day, we
Yep.
will lose our minds, we will lose our way, and we will die before we reach the 5th year of retirement, especially men.
Yeah.
Especially men.
Being
Men
active is
tend to
critical to
lean-
being healthy.
Yeah, well, they also lean into like substance abuse too, because if you're like the oldest of your friend group too, you're the first to retire. If you're the first
Yep.
to retire, you're just sitting around while your 60-year-old buddies are at work, and you're like, "Well, it's 9 a.m. Where's my Bush Light that I opened for breakfast?"
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even remember where I was going with that original point, but here we are.
It's isolating. It's an isolating thing. You retire out, and then our culture doesn't do a great job at this at all. We don't really have a like, so when you retire, here are the things that you can do to contribute to society. Like,
Yeah.
God, like it's kind of rare to find a good pub or bar that you can go to and just meet random people. Like,
Well, and especially like when you hit a certain age, now you could go to Florida, you can go to, certain retirement communities in Virginia and South Carolina and stuff.
yeah,
All across the world, really. You can go to Portugal. A lot of expats
Yeah.
are going out there because it's cheap and they speak English and all this.
Yeah.
But when I see, this is where I was going with that. When I see rich people working, I'm like, you're
oh yeah,
like The Rock, right? The dude's worth $300 million. I'm like, why the fuck do you work 17 hours a day? Stop. Like, no, keep doing what you're doing. I love you, Dwayne. But like, what are you doing?
But,
It's insanity. The dude just loves life. He loves his creativeness. He loves to be creative. And I think having
that's what
that
everyone's hitting for.
freedom is jarring to people like me who don't even have the freedom to think about retirement right now, because I have to bury my fucking face in notes for 17 hours a day.
Yeah, no, I mean, you touched on it. He's able to be free because he has enough money that he's broken out of like the glass ceiling of the system. He's good. He's set for life. Anything can happen to him. He's fine. Like,
Fine.
and that's a liberating place. And he shows a healthy way to handle that. Like, it's kind of an early version of retirement for him. Like, he's doing stuff he enjoys. He's not necessarily working. For him, it's playing. That's what he's doing. Work is something you're forced to do because you need to survive. It's like you have to go out and hunt and gather and all this other stuff. And like, it has a place in society, but it's not everything. And we can't even think about just retiring in our old age. We already work 5 days a week out of 7. That's not a great deal. We spend most of our lives working, and then we're not even really going to get to retire. And routinely, we get to hear about politicians on the paybook of wealthy corporate overlords who are trying to up the retirement wage. We have more population, a more powerful economy, and we are making more money than historically we have ever done. We're still I believe, the richest nation on the planet.
I believe
There's no
that
way
that
it's
is
like
still a
this.
fact until the dollar collapses in 6 weeks or a year, 6 years. It's coming.
Come on, Bitcoin, save me.
Boy, I need to start putting some of that fiat back into that crypto. I'll tell you that.
God, yeah. But yeah,
Man, man,
yeah.
I wish so many things, but I wish that retirement wasn't such like a downer to think about.
God,
I was
yeah.
so close. I shouldn't say I was so close. I was not close at all to retirement. Jesus Christ. Oh, you know why I started that thought that way. I had experienced, I came so close to experiencing retirement. There we go. A couple of years ago, I was actually a freelance writer. In fact, this is where you and I
Yeah.
didn't cross paths, but same place.
Yeah. Universe brought it around.
Yeah, I'd been laid off, funny enough, from there. Or I guess contract ended, whatever. I was a freelance writer. Anyway, they were vastly overpaying me. I wasn't going to tell them that. And I was making somewhere around the equivalent of like 90 grand a year from them.
Nice.
Dude, I was bringing home $2,500 a week in cash, give or take. That was on a good week. On average week was like $1,800. And I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm going to be debt free in just a couple of months. That's exactly what I did. I paid off all my debts and I paid off my last debt just weeks before the assignment ended, quote unquote ended. And while I was doing that, though, essentially that was my only job. I had 5 articles to write a week. It took me, give or take, 6 hours to do that. I made $300 an hour, dude.
And that's the thing, like you spent on reasonable things that made your life better. Like this is proof that like the average person, if they have this access, they do good things, they support themselves, and then you have the ability to spend in the economy because you're not in debt, and that helps the economy because the small businesses prosper.
And I will say too, like
the trickle up system. It's a fucking trickle up system.
It should be. Architects don't build from the top down. Why do politicians?
That's touche. Fuck, touche.
That's how you look. Dude, I worked at all right. I'm not even going to tell that story because not the show for it. But
I think we're hitting time too. We're on a roll now.
I mean, we got a few minutes left here. We got a few minutes here. Yeah, dude. The worst companies I'd ever actually experienced an attitude toward retirement from that was a really clunky way to say it. The employees at some of the companies, you could tell they just had like zero financial literacy. I am no financial expert, but I understand the conventional wisdom around retirement. Invest in stocks, invest in real estate, invest in bonds, treasuries, look into inflation resistant investments and equities and stuff. Just hiring a financial advisor is not a bad idea, but honestly, like the best thing you could do to prepare yourself to retire is read more. A lot of these people barely read at a 5th grade level. They just, a lot of them were high school dropouts. And I think that is reflective of most, maybe not most, but many of the people who are not looking at retirement at a reasonable age right now. Do we think this is something that like should be not imposed, but I guess like harped on more when we're younger? Like, hey, like in high school, like maybe we have an entire semester on senior year just dedicated to retirement specifically. Like this is how you retire. This is what to look out for. Mental health effects, physical health effects, psychological effects, relationship and interpersonal effects. Look out for these financial traits. Look out for these financial risks.
So like, I guess the other part about this too is like, it feels like making these systems so complex, it just makes it harder to achieve for so many. It should just be a bloody simple system, like kind of like taxes should be an art. Like
you write TurboTax for that.
Yeah, well, like, not to bring up the martial arts instructor, hence the background here, but like he has this great saying of if it's too simple, you're doing it right. Why are we making things so complex and obtuse so that you would have to even study this? It should just be a thing like, hey, welcome to the United States of America. We're the greatest nation on the planet. And here's why. Your education is taken care of, your retirement is taken care of, and your healthcare is taken care of. Don't worry about it. Be productive, be happy.
Follow-up question.
Oh.
Who's making money from it being convoluted?
Exactly.
Because someone is, right? Like it's Fidelity,
I would even,
it's Mary Ellen, it's all these places that actually do the 401k stuff for you, the IRA, the Roth, all that stuff. They
Oh, yeah.
lobby the government to make these complicated laws. They are literally the only reason that we are the only developed,
Oh,
trying to be a little PC here, but the only developed nation in the Western world that doesn't have a government subsidized retirement plan for its individuals. There's nothing
yeah.
for us. The UK,
Or
France has
healthcare.
retirement, state-sponsored
Healthcare's
retirement. I
too.
don't love the idea of state-sponsored anything or bigger
Ah,
government or anything like that.
yeah.
But that's a bit of a UBI, a universal basic income for the people who've already put in 40 years of work. Why the fuck
Absolutely.
not? I can't think of a better
Yeah.
way to start the idea, warm
God.
people up to the idea of a universal basic income,
It's a
which is not a perfect
reward.
idea in and of itself. It's got its flaws too, but it's a hell of a better start than we got
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too. Like, I think collectively we're all so abused so much in our work relationships that like that realistically should be a bare minimum. Like we should
Yeah.
be every year striving to automate and be better so that more and more people can retire early. There could be this utopia of like, okay, here's the deal. You're a kid up until this age, you train in something that you're really interested in from this age to this age, and you kick ass at it. And then you retire and spend the rest of your life having a great damn time because basically we got this humanity society thing down.
And we only get one life. I hate
Yeah.
the fact that we're obligated to spend it selling hours of our life, selling our
Mhm.
life hour, 1 hour at a time to another man. And it
Mhm.
usually is another man. It's usually a white man, or if you're in a big tech company, it's usually an Indian man as a CEO.
That's
And
been a thing. Yeah, it has been a thing.
that's what I'm noticing. I actually came across an article just yesterday
Yeah.
about how tech is being taken over by Indians.
Yeah, there's so my experience in the tech industry, I've slowly seen this happen where it was like really rare to see a not white executive, and then it just started to shift over to Indians. And some of them are really amazing. Like some of the best
Yeah.
bosses were these really sweet Indian dudes. And then there was a chunk of them that really thought they were God's gift to the world. And then we found out that they were being like underpaid dramatically compared to the previous executives. Like some of our production employees made more than they did.
Oh my
And then
God.
the weird backwards part was they had this ego of holier than thou of like we are superior, we're the better ones, like you don't even understand what we do. And it's like, okay, one, you're treating us so poorly, but two, like my dude, my guy, they're abusing you. Like you could at least get paid what the white dude was getting paid. That's messed up that you're not. It's this interesting kind of thing. I started in a lot of the like IT support ones, and then it's bled out into a lot of these companies. And it's another example of a country with a horrible work culture that's just ruining these poor people.
And the ironic part about that is they come over here to work for American companies because they have the
Or better.
reputation for being good companies to work for.
Yep. And they probably are in comparison. India's got some messed up stuff that they do in their work cultures.
I actually saw this is a few weeks ago now, but India was going through a heat wave, actually a few months ago.
Yeah.
I believe they hit like 118 degrees or something around that without the heat index. And this company made them sign a pledge to continue to work through the heat wave. People were just like literally falling out from the heat, just like, whoop.
Yep. A young woman died recently in India, and unfortunately, I don't remember her name, which is really fucked up. I realize there's a lot of fucked up shit going on right now. It's hard to keep it all straight, but she died in her workplace, and her mom hit up the workplace on social media and was like, "Hey, my daughter died. She was young. She was so excited to work for you, and she died within a few weeks from being overworked." And they had no pity. They didn't care. Like it's a work expectation in India to, if you are in the ER, to have a laptop on you so you can do work while you're recovering. They do think the US is better in some ways, but God, we're not far off from being just as bad.
How do you think you retired from that? Like if they're looking at you like, hey, no, like we understand you just had a massive breast tumor removed, but we're gonna need you to log on today.
Yeah. Oh God. You wouldn't do good work. You'd be addled on things. Like
Yeah, man.
dramatically addled.
Addled. I just can't. be okay with things like that. I don't know how anyone else can. I know obviously like there's millions of other people out there who are going
Yeah.
like, what the fuck are these guys on about? Like there's no millions of other people, like we're talking millions of people, but
Yeah.
there are millions of
Okay.
people observing these things. It's like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I think that's a very reasonable response. Like people might
Yeah.
look at you a little crazy, like, hey, this is just the way things have always been. You know, you just toe the line and you'll be okay. And that's the sad fact of it,
Oh
unfortunately. I
yeah.
think is
I've heard that
oftentimes
a
if you toe
lot.
the line, you'll be fine. But
I've heard that a
you're just
lot.
toeing the line. You're living for someone else. You're living because of someone else at that point. You're not living for your own values and your own agency. You're giving your agency to someone else.
I think the messed up part about capitalism is like if we could just rebuild it slightly better, it could actually be a really good system, as proven by the past. I mean, but I think we'd have to rebuild it under the exact logic of the employee is the most valuable product in the system, is the most
Yeah.
valuable thing that is sold back and forth. Probably why all these companies are flocking to robotic workforces. Yay, I don't have to pay them anymore. I don't have to play these weird games. Ha ha ha.
Oh, God, that just gives me chills. Like you don't have to pay for a pension for a robot.
Yeah,
You don't
it
have
breaks,
to
just get a
pay
new one.
into and pensions are something that should have never gone away. They should have
Mhm.
never gone away. What a
They
pension
should have
was
improved.
they should have improved, right? They should have been improved upon. And like essentially what a pension was a government or not government, a business would
Yeah,
invest into a pool of money
yeah,
and or a pool of stock buy-ins, hedge funds, equities, all these things. And
yeah.
then those dividends and whatever money was made on top of that will be paid out to the pensioners. So it's not like it even really came out of the money or out of the company's money, because as soon as that employee wasn't there anymore, they weren't paying into that pot for that employee anymore.
Yeah, and now most businesses invest in stocks for their own personal gain instead of passing
That's
it on
right.
to employees. God, there's a
Yeah,
certain point where it almost feels like just a bunch of disorganized, organized crime rings, and the CEOs are just the frontmen for it.
well, what you just described is a perfect example of how things are shifting from a labor. It is late, people. Whoa, a
It
labor
is.
economy to a shareholder economy. They're literally taking the money that they would otherwise be putting into the labor, the pensioners, and putting it into their own vested interests, their own stock holdings. And a lot of
Yeah,
that is the reason like we can't retire anymore. Like our retirement game was strongest when pensions were strongest, when unions were strongest.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to do that thing again where I bring it full circle in a fun moment. Just like we have to think like the Japanese. In the one case where they have a good example of work culture, why is that acceptable? You don't have to be ethnically Japanese to have an honor complex and like do what's right for your team. You could just do what's right for your team and be a good person. Like you were talking about at the very beginning, this whole concept of the picture. What was it called again?
The lunch top skyscraper.
Yeah, the whole concept of that is those people coming together and trusting themselves and treating each other well to achieve a far higher goal. That's what humanity does.
That's what
Why
Americans
aren't we
do.
holding each other? Yeah,
Fuck,
freaking
man.
that's the core of everything. Why are we as Americans not treating each other well? We definitely don't do a great job of treating the rest of the world well. Well, if we start with ourselves, we might be able to fix that. We could be a utopia. We're the richest nation in the world, goddammit.
I don't have any more to say on that, Colin. That was a hell of a punctuation right there. I think we can give a sincere thank you and